Hello again and welcome to part 3 and the final of this IP address series. In this video I will explain what Supernetting is, also known as CIDR. CIDR stands for Classless Inter-Domain Routing. It is a new addressing scheme for the internet intended to replace the old classful, which is class A, class B, class C address scheme. So the difference is in classless inter-domain routing in CIDR, we don't consider the class of an IP address. In other words, regardless of the first octet of the IP address, it can have 8 bits for network ID, even if the first octet is of a class C IP address. So for example, we can have a class C octet, but not 24 bits network ID. So the first octet can be from 192 to 223 instead of 24 bits, which is in class C. As we have seen in part 1, we can have any number of bits for the network ID, even if the IP address is a class C IP address. Alright, so instead of having 24 bits for an IP address which starts with 192, we can have only 19 bits for the network address. So it could be like, for example, 192.168.0.0. As we have seen, this is a class C IP address, but we can have like 192.168.0.0/19 to mean that we use 19 bits for the network ID, even though it's a class C network, which naturally has 24 bits for the network ID. Alright, that's the difference. So it is an addressing scheme, as I explained already, that supports masks not only of 8, 16 or 24 bits as in class for routing, but of arbitrary lengths. So not only 8, 16 or 24, we can use any number, as I gave you an example. For example, it could be 19. So the notation for CIDR is 3x's for the decimal number, because for example, it could be the example I gave you, 192.168.0.0, for example, /19. So generally, we can denote CIDR as XXX.XXX.XXX.XXX for the IP address /n, which is the network ID bits. Alright, the CIDR masks for classes A, B, and C respectively are if we only have 8 bits for the network ID, or 16 bits for the network ID, or 24 bits for the network ID, which is respectively A, B, and C. The CIDR notation would be the given IP address /8 for A, the given IP address /16 for B, and the given IP address /24 for C. For example, the CIDR notations for the examples I showed you in part 2 respectively are 204.17.5.0/27 for the first example. If you remember the example, we divided a network based on the given IP address to 8 subnets. So in that subnet, if you remember, we used 27 bits for the network ID because it is a class C network. So what we did was we borrowed 3 bits in addition to the 24 bits for the network ID, which makes it 27. 24 plus the 3 bits we borrowed from the host ID, that would be 27 bits for the network ID. Alright, so for those subnets, we used 27 bits to identify subnets. So the network ID bits length is 27. And for the second example, where we used an AND binary operator to determine network address and host addresses, it was a naturally class C IP address, so we didn't divide the network into subnetworks. So we were just asked to determine the network address and host addresses without dividing the network into subnets. So in other words, we took just 24 bits for network ID, the IP address /24 bits, which were used to identify networks or as a network ID. And for the last example that I showed you how to divide a network into 2, given the same IP address, which is 192.168.5.85. Again, it's a class C IP address, but we used an extra bit to identify networks in addition to the 24 bits. So 24 bits, the natural mask for class C IP addresses, plus 1 that we used to divide the network into subnets. So in other words, each subnet has 25-bit network ID, and the 7 remaining bits are host IDs. Alright, so the given IP address, regardless of the first octet. Alright, so we don't care what the first octet is. As I said earlier, for example, the last IP address, which is 192.168.5.85, instead of 25 network ID bits, we can say, for example, 15, even though it's class C IP address, if you consider the first octet. Alright, so in classless, we don't consider what the first octet is. We just care about having how many network bits and host bits. So the /n is the number of network ID bits, regardless of the IP address being class A, class B, class C, and so on. Alright, this was a short video on Supernetting. Thank you for watching, and you can encourage me to do more and better videos by clicking subscribe and like. Okay, I will see you in the next video. Bye.